Well, hey, folks, welcome to the Roundup where we bring you the news shaping our community and our nation. Look, it's no secret that President Trump is not your typical politician. Long gone are the days where to run a presidential campaign, you have to shake hands and kiss babies. No, today, to run for president, you need a mugshot, a bullet to the ear, showing up to McDonald's like you're just one of us, and campaigning on a garbage truck. Trump's way of campaigning is a little bit different from others, but guess what? It's working. Poll after poll shows that Kamala Harris is poised to have the worst performance with Hispanic voters for a Democrat presidential candidate in a generation. And why is that? Well, as I traveled the country and spoken to hundreds of Hispanic voters, they say this, that they feel that President Trump has their back and is willing to fight and go the long run to take down the establishment. So, whether you love him or you hate him, you have to admit, President Trump is changing the game. All right, folks, so the largest grassroots organization in the country doesn't come in the form of a super PAC or a campaign committee. No, it actually comes through the form of the church. Think about it, the evangelical church. We gather, hundreds of us gather weekly, sometimes 2 times a week, to share a message of hope and unity. Now, collectively, if all Christians were to gather together and vote, there would be no, recounting of the ballots. There would be no litigating on, voter integrity because it would be just too big to rig. But the problem is that now we have trouble behind the pews with over 30 million evangelicals saying that they are not motivated to vote in this election cycle. To talk about this and discuss more, I invited my good friend, Pastor Tony Suarez, who is the founder of Revival Makers. Pastor Tony, it's so good to have you with us today.
Abraham, thank you for having me on the program today. And as you know, I admire everything that God is doing through you and with you to advance not just the Latino cause, but the cause of this country to bring us back to a place of righteousness, faith, and hope.
Well, Pastor, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And it's been truly an honor and a joy to walk hand in hand with you in this mission, particularly this year as we've traveled the country and gathered the votes with evangelical listeners. But I want to share a stat with you, and you tell me if we're reading this incorrectly. A new study finds that over 32 million Christian voters say they feel disengaged and will most likely not vote in this election cycle. You have actually traveled the entire country. You are speaking at these churches, and you're doing something actually quite different this year. Yes, you're sharing the gospel and the message of hope and redemption, but you're also sharing the importance of getting out and voting for President Trump. Are you also seeing, disengagement behind the church, or are you seeing, people who are excited and understand the importance of getting out and voting this election cycle?
As long as I've been involved in issues like this, going back to, maybe the last 15, 20 years, we've always heard about the disengagement, the encouragement to the church to vote. I think the message has finally resonated with the church. I think the 2020 election showed what happens when you sit out, when you stay home, when you don't show up to vote, when you think that your vote isn't important. As they say, elections have consequences. Not participating has consequences. So I think the message has really resonated, and I see an energy around the church, around our community. I see us engaging not just in telling people to get out to vote, but strategizing on how we're helping our community and our congregants get to the polling places, whether that's helping someone register to vote, helping them with a mail-in ballot, states where ballot harvesting is legal. It's not something that everyone likes. I don't like it, but if you're going to win, sometimes you have to beat them at their own game, right? So I love baseball. Some people hated sign stealing, but that was a part of the game. And if you were going to win, sometimes, well, we're probably getting into things you don't want me to talk about. The point is, we have to pull out all the stops, all the legal stops to win. And that's what I see the church doing. I see us taking our faith and putting it into action. And as a pastor, that's what the Apostle Paul spoke of when he said, if you say you have faith, then I'm going to say, show me your works, because your faith is proven through your works.
Pastor Tony, you and I, we spent some time recently together in South Texas, Brownsville, Texas, where our good friend Mayra Flores is running for re-election. You're doing something incredible and extraordinary this year, which is not new to you actually, but it's new to both of our efforts together, is going into these areas and rallying the Christian vote behind some amazing candidates like Mayra Flores. Now, you and I both know, Pastor, that in the Hispanic evangelical world, getting involved in politics, pastors getting involved in politics is a little bit difficult to get them awakened to the issues. Why was it important for you to visit these districts, visit these areas like Brownsville with Mayra to rally the vote and make the case for Christian leadership to go out and vote for Mayra and candidates like Mayra?
When we look at our American history, we'll find that the church was always engaged. This notion that the church has to sit out, that preachers can't have a voice, this is some kind of, in my opinion, a rewritten history of America. Let's just talk about the civil rights movement for a moment. It was led by the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., a pastor, a Baptist pastor, who empowered others. And now I'm going to name personalities, whether you agree or don't agree with them in their current manifestation or policies, so be it. But at that time in history, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Al Sharpton, and so many others, these were clergymen and women that stepped to the forefront. They led the marches, the boycotts, the parade. They organized their community. Incredible pastors and bishops in Chicago. When African Americans couldn't get bank accounts in Chicago, it was African American bishops like Bishop Arthur Brazier and Bishop Bell that organized credit unions for their local churches and communities. They were always engaged. So history has set the precedent for us to be involved. Now we understand that there's legislation and that like the Johnson Amendment that says that you shouldn't do this and that, and I get that. But unless I'm wrong, and Abraham, correct me if you know this, to my knowledge, I'm not aware of any pastor, preacher, evangelist, anyone that uses the title Reverend. I'm not aware of anyone that has ever been prosecuted under the Johnson Amendment, right? I admire Franklin Graham, who will come to every rally, and he will endorse and speak on behalf of President Trump. And he always comes to the microphone and says, I'm here as a private citizen. So I take my cues from that. My own, pastor mentor, the Reverend Sam Rodriguez, though maybe he hasn't offered an official endorsement of a particular candidate, he's never been ashamed to speak to the issues. And so, we come forward and we say, well, as a private citizen, I haven't had any issue saying that if I lived in Mayra's district, I would vote for Mayra. I would vote for Mr. Hinojosa. I did already cast my vote for President Trump yesterday when I participated in early voting. I think it's time for us to have the backbone and the courage that history has already shown us from people like Dr. King and others. We're not going to get in trouble. We're going to empower others to do the right thing, to vote the right way. And so we're not going to hurt anything. We're going to help things by taking a stand.
You're absolutely right. And to confirm, there has been no pastor, church, reverend, bishop that has been, in legal troubles because of them getting involved in advocating for who they believe should run the country. In fact, something that I believe really awakened the church was when President Trump was trying to get across the finish line the elimination of the Johnson Amendment. And I go back to President Reagan when he spoke in front of a group of pastors and said, I understand that you can't endorse me, but I endorse you. And I believe that is what awakened so many pastors to jump on the Reagan train. And going back to what you're saying, how policy has always been the root within the evangelical church. In fact, I believe that DC has gotten too bureaucratic, and if we were to get some pastors in there, any government agency or government program would be running differently. Look at the way the government runs something versus how the church runs something, and it's night and day. I think when the church leads, beautiful things happen. So you were just at a conference, and you heard the National Faith Advisory Board Summit, where President Trump spoke and shared a little bit about his faith. What did you get out of that, and what can you share with our viewers about the Trump that you saw on stage that day?
I've had the honor to be of being associated with President Trump since 2015, when I originally joined the informal faith advisory board back during his campaign. I had very much been a follower of and a supporter of Marco Rubio, and ultimately, when at that point, candidate Trump won the nomination, he invited us to be on the advisory board, and I was able to sit at tables at multiple meetings multiple times and be around that man and hear him speak, not just with a microphone in front of thousands, but in intimate settings of a dozen or less. And I found a man that I believe with my heart fears the Lord. He respects Scripture. He's not a pastor. He's not a bishop. He's not and we've been careful to always say that, but he's a man that I believe loves the Lord, and he respects faith, and he respects clergymen and women and what they have to say on behalf of God. So I've seen that since 2015. What I saw earlier this at the National Faith Advisory Board meeting in Atlanta, and also a week prior when we were together in Concord, North Carolina, is I saw a man, again, who I believe is becoming even more deeply rooted in his faith and is seeking out the Lord. He is very aware that had it not been for the Lord that was on his side, he would not be alive. That's not churchies, as we call it. That's not hyperbole. That is literally the fact. Had the Lord not been on his side, okay, there wouldn't have been that split second of a term. Mm-hmm. There would be, we don't know what would have happened right now. So he's very aware the Lord kept him alive. And I believe the Lord kept him alive for such a time as this. So I'm finding a man that I see even more serious in his faith now more than ever before.
That's incredible, Pastor. And I agree with you. I've had the pleasure of sitting with President Trump a handful of times. And each time I feel like I find a man a little bit more committed to his faith. And I think it's important, as you said, to always acknowledge this isn't a pastor, this isn't a preacher, this is someone that the church is hiring for a job to protect religious liberty in America. And to wrap
the
up,
media is good at nitpicking if he says something wrong or they don't like this action. Yeah. Imagine if we did that to you. Now, I don't mean Abraham, I mean to the viewer. Imagine if someone nitpicked everything you said wrong, everything you did wrong. Yeah. The difference between you and President Trump is you don't have 500 cameras following you around every day. And I'm going to say, I'm glad I don't have 500 cameras following me around every day. The same mercy and grace of God that's extended to you every day is the same mercy and grace that's extended to President Trump. He's a work in progress like you and I are as well. So let's remember, we're all growing in our faith. This is about finishing the race. And I believe that when it's all said and done, my faith and my hope, and I hope everyone feels the same, is that President Trump finishes his race in faith strong with faith in Christ.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you, Pastor. And as we know, 1 in 3 Christians don't vote in every presidential election cycle, which is a huge disadvantage to issues that we care about. And this last week, 2 campaigns shared their vision for America. And one campaign told Christians, you're at the wrong rally and you're not allowed to be here. And the other one confirmed that Jesus is king. And I will always go to the campaign that accepts the idea that America was founded on those Judeo-Christian values. So we can sing Alabaré all we want on Sunday morning, but if we're not alabareing to the voting booth, then it doesn't matter. So
that's right.
Pastor Tony, thank you so much. Appreciate you, and so excited for the future projects that we have together, and I'm just so thankful for your leadership.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, folks, with 36 million eligible Hispanic voters, we are the second largest voting bloc, which means Hispanics can decide the future of this country. And Hispanics are waking up and flipping traditional areas that Democrats have had control for for over centuries, which is why today I'm so honored to invite my good friend, Honorable Mayra Flores, who is running to represent again Texas District 34, which is the nation's largest Hispanic populated district and the only competitive House seat in Texas. Mayra, good to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Buenos dias.
So I have a question for you, Mayra. Your district has been under Democrat control for over a century, but yet your leadership is changing the page and providing this awakening for Republicans in your district. Why do you think that is?
Well, you're right. This is a Hillary 36 district, and this is also a Biden 15 district, and it's now based on our last poll, a Trump +3 district, and that is
Wow.
a testament to the amazing work that we have been doing here in South Texas for close to 10 years, investing in the community and just informing them what the Republican Party stands for and what the Democrat Party stands for. They had the wrong idea. They thought that the Republican Party was the party of the rich and that the Democrat Party was the party of the poor. And I made them understand that no, the Democrat Party is for poverty. Big difference. They want us poor, uninformed, and we want to bring prosperity to South Texas. Many of our children, grandchildren leave South Texas for better opportunities, and I want to bring the American dream here in South Texas. Why not? And our values have never changed. South Texas has always been about faith, family, and hard work. The Democrat Party, unfortunately, walked away from those values, and that is one of the reasons why the Hispanic is finding a new home in the Republican Party, and we're giving them a bienvenido, to our party.
There you go. I love that. I love that bienvenido plug. Mayra, you are Mexican born. You are a woman. You are someone that is college educated. You have a beautiful family. On paper, you are what Democrats say that they support and that they celebrate. And yet some of the most attacks that you receive are from Democrat leaders. I think that exposes a hypocrisy of
That's
how they
right.
say that they are pro-woman and pro-minority. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, yeah. I never faced racism growing up. It was until I got involved in politics. I was told, you're a woman of color. You're supposed to be voting Democrat. And they think that because they go to Mexico and vacation in Cabos, they think they know our culture. But in Mexico, where I'm from, Burgos, Tamaulipas, we're very conservative. We're all about God and family. And just because we come here to the United States doesn't mean that our values are going to change. So for me, my values are more important than any political party. The Republican Party stands for those values, and that's one of the reasons why I walked away from the Democrat Party. I actually also supported the Democrat Party when I grew up because I was also told to support the Democrat Party, but I realized back in 2010 that they did not represent the values that my grandparents, my parents instilled in me, and I walked away, and ever since then I've been a Republican. I'm a proud American. I love this country, and that is why it's so important for me to fight for the values that I was raised, but also fight for the American values that I was also raised with.
So, Mayra, there's a poll that came out, a New York Times poll, that shows that I think about 8% of Hispanic voters in battleground states that voted for Joe Biden in 2020 are now voting for President Trump, which when an election cycle is going to come down to only a handful of votes, every single vote matters. So Kamala Harris can't afford to lose Hispanic voters. But I want to talk about the independent swing Hispanic voters who are still deciding and are going to go and make their decision on Tuesday. What do you say to those Hispanic voters who are disenfranchised from the left? They hate where the Democrat Party has gone, but are still pretty reluctant to the Republican Party and President Trump. What do you say to those Hispanic voters who are casting their vote on Tuesday?
That we don't need someone that we like in the White House. We need someone that's going to get the job done, that is going to give us more money in our pockets to be able to take care of our children and our families. And we cannot afford 4 more years of the Harris administration. We cannot afford it economically, physically, mentally. It's important that we put aside our emotions and that we put our family's needs first. And we need a strong economy. And the reality is that bills got to get paid. And the only person that is going to give us a strong economy is President Trump. But that is why I'm also running, because he needs the House of Representatives. He needs a majority in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. And that's why it's important for us to vote Republican down the ballot as well.
And Mayra, you alluded to something very important, and that is that yes, we need President Trump at the White House. But what good is it if he doesn't have the House that are going to back up his policies?
That's
Here in
right.
Texas, where Hispanics are now majority in population, can decide what that House majority looks like with your race. It is the only competitive House race in Texas. And honestly, Mayra, it has been really incredible to see how the Speaker of the House, some leaders in Congress and the Senate are traveling all the way down to Brownsville and Harlingen, areas that probably have never seen Republican leadership.
That's
How does
right.
that make you feel that people across the country believe in you and believe in South Texas? You're bringing investment and attention to an area that has long gone been forgotten for many years from our party, from both parties, to be honest.
You're right. It's already a big win for us. We've always wanted to bring attention to South Texas, and we want Washington to see us. We're Americans. You know, a lot of times they see us as, you know, Hispanics, Latinos, but at the end of the day, we're Americans too. Our vote matters, and I feel that for a long time we were ignored from Washington, and to see all these leaders coming here, it is really humbling. I'm glad that they see us and that they understand that we're worth investing, and we want people to come here and invest in South Texas. We need more Elon Musk, more investors to come here and bring good paying jobs so we can stay here with our loved ones, because we love the 956. We love South Texas. We don't want to leave South Texas for better opportunities. We want those opportunities here in South Texas.
And I think something that makes you so unique, Mayra, and I think you're the biggest threat, you are the biggest threat to the Democrat Party. Like I said, Mexican-born, you're a woman, you're in deep South Texas. But I've campaigned with you. I've been to your district. I've walked with you. I've made the phone calls. Something that I think that you do very well, and something I think President Trump does very well, is you're able to break down these very intricate policies that sometimes, you know, Harvard or Yale professors are used to speaking, but you break it down in a way that the everyday person can understand. And you're also
That's the
a
way
great
I
ambassador.
understand it too, though.
There you go. You're also a great ambassador to our party, Mayra. You're the only person outside of President Trump that can get the world's wealthiest man, Elon Musk, and also the mom and pop taco truck shop owner to vote Republican. I mean, who else can do that? And besides Mayra Flores. So I'm thankful that the party has you. I mean, Kamala Harris has all the, Hispanic celebrities and artists to which we don't really care about. In fact, I think those endorsements matter. The party has you. So let's end with this. Arizona, 30% of the electorate is Hispanic. Nevada, 30% of the electorate is Hispanic. In Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in Ohio, the Hispanic voting demographic is increasing. Sooner or later, these candidates cannot win without the Hispanic vote. For those that are interested in understanding how do I win the Hispanic vote, what advice do you give to those candidates?
To invest in the Hispanic community that is already pro-God, pro-life, pro-family, pro-hard work. Our values align with the Republican Party, and I believe that the Hispanic community is going to save this country, is going to give President Trump back the White House. It's because of the Hispanic community that we're going to keep the majority in the House of Representatives. It's because of the Hispanic community that we're going to win the Senate. I truly believe that it's our values, our work ethic that is going to save this country. So it's important that everyone understand that we are worth investing, but we got to invest in Univision, in Telemundo. We got to spread the message both in Spanish and English. Yes, English is our first language here in America, but if we do not start investing in Spanish language, the Democrat Party will, and they will start spreading misinformation. So it's important that we go on these networks and that we tell them who we are and what our platform is. It's important that we inform our Hispanic voters, because at the end of the day, they're Americans too.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Mayra, because something that I do want to emphasize before we wrap is this. Is when the party sees Hispanic leaders like yourself run for office, you folks need double the money. Why? Because you're putting ads and billboards and campaign messaging both in English and in Spanish. And, research shows that Democrats have over a 10-point lead with voters that get some or all of their news in Spanish. So if we really truly want to make a dent in the Democrat coalition, we got to start investing in Spanish, which leads me to say, where can supporters pitch in $5, $10 to help your campaign? Because, you know, when you're having to do bilingual ads, both in English and in Spanish, it takes a toll on your campaign fund. So every cent matters. So where can folks go to support you?
Well, I know we're all going through a very difficult time economically, but if you do have $1, $5 to donate to our campaign to save this country, because at the end of the day, we're trying to save the future of our children, I am truly, truly grateful if you're able to donate to our campaign at MayraFloresForCongress.com. Again, at www.MayraFloresForCongress.com. Thank you.
And I tell everyone, Mayra, that investing in your campaign, whether you live in South Texas or you live, you know, in Nebraska, Kansas, New York, California,
that's right,
investing in your campaign is investing in the future, because as the most Hispanic populated district in the country, your district is what's going to decide the future of our country. Now, I've said this about 100 times now to wrap up, but to really wrap up, I know that President Trump absolutely loves you. You were one of his first leaders on his Texas campaign arm. You were just with him at a round table. I mean, he would never say who his favorite, you know, candidate is, but if I were to ask him, I'm pretty sure he would say you. Give us a little bit of behind the scenes of who this man really is. What have your interactions been with him, and what can people take home from your experiences with President Trump?
He's very humble, very down to earth, talks to you like, you know, he's known you for a long time, and that's what really impressed me. I've met a lot of people in politics, and it's amazing to see someone who's, you know, he's been the president of the United States and will be again our president. So to see someone so down to earth and just so humble, it's amazing. And he treated us all with such respect, and I hope that, you know, America, who doesn't know him like that, will give him the opportunity to really get to know him for who he is, not just as, you know, the man Donald Trump, but also the friend, you know, the father, the person who he is. There's just so much about him, and he deserves to be back in the White House, because he's doing this just for us. He's not doing this because he wants more money. He has plenty of money. He's doing it for us to save the future of our children.
Yeah, I mean, the man literally took a bullet for democracy. So I don't know what else people need to know. But Mayra, thank you so much. It's great to spend an afternoon drinking some cafecito with you. As people should know, you love your coffee. So Mayra, thank you so much. And thank you again for being such a great ambassador to our movement and to our party. God bless you.
Gracias, hermano.
All right, so with 36 million eligible Hispanic voters and being the second largest voting bloc, it's crazy to think that you and I, our voting has enough power to decide the future of our country. So as you're going to the election booth, I want to encourage you to remind yourself of the values that our abuelos and our mom and dad taught us to uphold, and defend those values at the ballot box.